Welcome back, everyone. As you probably guessed from the title of the video, we have some news for you today, and it should be good news one way or another. How much good news? We will see in the future. We're going to break that down for you, what it is, what I think it could be, and then perhaps what you guys think it might be as we go along today in the video. So this news broke on Wednesday. As I'm recording this, this is the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Not sure when it'll get uploaded and approved by YouTube. However, it broke the Wednesday evening, or rather Wednesday evening before Thanksgiving. So I wanted to give it till at least Friday after Thanksgiving to see if more information would come out on the story. And interestingly, DOJ, their spokesperson, was asked about this on Friday. They did not comment on it. They said they had no comment. Interesting. So with that, what are we talking about? Well, on Wednesday afternoon, as I mentioned, the U.S. Department of Justice announced that they plan on opening a gun rights office within the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. So for folks who don't know, we have a Department of Justice, of course, led currently by Attorney General Pam Bondi. Underneath that, we have the Civil Rights Division, which I actually talk about quite a bit on social media, if you guys follow me there, which is, of course, led by Harmeet Dillon. And now they are saying that within the Civil Rights Division, they are going to create a gun rights office, and presumably that would be also overseen by Harmeet Dillon. For those of you guys who don't know, Harmeet Dillon actually has a pretty good track record as an attorney in terms of going after really horrible Second Amendment laws. So when she got brought on the Department of Justice, there was a lot of hope for that. There's been some mixed results so far, no doubt about it. But this Department of Justice always wants to say that they are the most pro-2A Department of Justice ever. Not sure if that's true. I have said previously they're the most pro-Second Amendment in my life. However, the caveat always needs to be issued with that bar is insanely low. Like basically every Department of Justice has been horrible on the Second Amendment over the last half century, and honestly, probably number 2 in that position, just to put it in perspective. For those of you guys who don't follow this, probably the second best Department of Justice in my lifetime has been the one with Eric Holder, where they expanded gun rights in national parks, right? So the bar is very low. However, they certainly have the potential to do good things in this office being created. According to the Department of Justice press release, was done as a response to the February executive order issued by President Trump on the Second Amendment, which we have covered here in the past. But before we get into basically what the announcement said, some reaction to it, and what I think it could be, we do need to thank the sponsor of today's video, and that is the good folks over at G-Code Holsters. So I just said G-Code Holsters. They make holsters. There's no doubt about it, like this one here that we have been concealed carrying our Glock with over the last few months now. Obviously, it has that nice suede material on there. It's not actually suede, but it feels nice and suede up against your skin. So that way, when you are carrying inside the waistband, you are not getting rubbed by it in a way that you don't want. You're getting rubbed in the way you do want, which is important. However, they don't just make holsters, they make a ton of stuff. You guys have seen, of course, as well, the spare magazine holsters, as well as their belts. In my opinion, some of the best belts in the game. This particular one we have been using for months now. Has that nice, easy to actuate clip, which if you've ever used one of these style of belts with the clip, you will never go back to using a traditional belt with holes again. It's obviously extremely easy to get on and off, which is nice. Also very easy to adjust the tension, which is nice. You don't have to go between holes. I do dig that. And of course, this one here is reinforced with multiple layers, as well as a rigid insert on the inside to keep your gun not moving when you are carrying. But they also make a ton of other stuff that we're not showing you here, as well as plate carriers, magazine rigs. They also make a holster system that if you guys are Gulf War on terrorism veterans, you're probably very familiar with. It actually has a sort of like a central hub, and you can mount that hub in multiple different places, whether it be on your belt, on your chest rig, in your vehicle, and then you can just snap your holster right in there as well. So G-Code holsters, veteran owned, all American made. They have been in business for decades now at this point. Very, very proven product. Big thank you to them for sponsoring this video. We appreciate it. Having great sponsors makes it very easy to run these in-video ads. So with that, getting back to what is going on with this office, there's a few things that I think are kind of key takeaways that were mentioned in the announcement. Number 1 is that they expect it to be fully staffed and operational by December 4th. That is crazy if you think about the timeline on that for government. So hopefully that will happen. That is, less than a week away now as when we're recording this video. And hopefully they hit the ground running and do a bunch of interesting things. Now, before we get into one of the things that the press release actually noted, one thing I want to mention is a quote from somebody who used to work, an attorney who used to work in the Department of Justice at the Civil Rights Division. And she said, "The Civil Rights Division new focus on the Second Amendment, which is far outside its longstanding mission, is moving us even further away from our nation's commitment to protecting all Americans' civil rights." That's what Stacey Young said. She used to work in that department, and she could not be more wrong. I say that because, for those of you guys who are new here, I've made this point probably 100 times on the channel, but the most important civil right is the right to defend yourself and your family how you see fit. Without it, you have no civil rights. Think of every other thing that you would classify as a civil right. If you're dead, then there's no way you can achieve that other civil right that you may deem a noble cause, right? So the Second Amendment and the right to self-defense, how you see fit is key, is the most basic civil right. So the fact that this woman here who had worked in this office previously says that it's completely, not in line with their mission, just shows how far off this mission has been. This should always be the primary mission of the Department of Civil Rights within the Department of Justice. So glad to see it's getting some love and attention here as well. And additionally, in the press release here, one thing they talked about was an earlier investigation that the Department of Civil Rights within the Department of Justice has done in terms of LA County and their concealed carry scheme. So one thing they did, and the article here mentioned it, I'll roll in the screenshot so you guys can see that mention, is they actually talked about how the Department of Justice has been going after LA County, their sheriff, and then all the other people who work within that division, which in California is who issues concealed carry permits. So for those of you guys that don't know, recently, relatively speaking, California became a shall issue state, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Definitely good news. If I told you that 20 years ago, you probably wouldn't have believed it. But certain counties in California, exactly the ones that you would expect, have been doing everything they can to not issue permits in a timely manner. Primarily, LA County and the Department of Justice has gone after them. They already have sued them, and it looks like they're going to turn that heat up a little bit more with several other angles, if you will, legal angles of attack on that organization, which they absolutely should do. Honestly, there is a very good case for arresting the leadership of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department because, again, they are denying the civil rights of the people who live within their county under the color of law is the way that the U.S. Code actually reads. They absolutely could be arrested for that and probably should if they don't immediately change their ways. However, I took out the old school pen and paper and wanted to talk about some other things this Office of Gun Rights can attack. Some of these things have been partially addressed by President Trump as well as Attorney General Bondi over the previous few months, but I just kind of wanted to go down them one by one, and the last one is the one that you guys are probably all thinking of. We will get to it, fear not. But the first one is going to be all of the different state magazine laws, magazine bans, if you will, that greater than 10 or greater than 15 in the case of Colorado. Any of those bans, as well as state assault weapon ban cases that are currently in trial, which there are a number of them. I believe there's like 14 when I looked it up earlier. All of those need to have amicus briefs filed at whatever level they're at within the appellate process by the Department of Justice. Some of those have happened. At least one of them that I'm aware of anyway, that has happened. However, that should happen with all of them. We have an entire Department of Justice with staff attorneys that have nothing to do but file these cases, right? So file them, like get it done. If this thing is supposed to be operational on the 4th, make it happen. Next one is going to be the frame and receiver rule. If you guys are subscribers to this channel, you guys will know I have been hammering on this. This case actually went to the Supreme Court. And after that ruling, unfortunately, because it was a bad cases make bad laws. And unfortunately, the Supreme Court upheld that ruling. Again, it's a terrible case. See my videos on it. We have talked about it before. But what essentially that rule that the ATF created out of thin air under the Department of Justice, the previous one, is that they said that basically anything could be a frame or receiver. Like legitimately any piece of plastic or aluminum could be a frame or receiver and then be treated as a firearm under US law for 4473s, transfers, illegal possession, prohibited persons, all of those other things that come with firearms. That was upheld by the Supreme Court. However, the only reason it was upheld is because the Department of Justice did not drop it. They could drop it today. They could drop that rule literally today, probably not on a Saturday, but they certainly could do it on Monday. So get rid of the frame and receiver rule. It was made up out of thin air by the last ATF. It can be gone by the current ATF and Department of Justice. Similarly, the pistol brace rule, this one's a little bit different because the Department of Justice has put out a policy memo stating that they will not enforce anything in terms of pistol brace rules, and that certainly is good. That's great. I'm very happy about that. Pistol braces are very important in America in terms of disabled people as well as people who want to not have to deal with the NFA because of certain state laws where they live. All of those sorts of things. There's lots of great reasons why someone would choose a stabilizing brace instead of a stock and a short barrel rifle and registration and all the other things that come with it. However, the rule itself has not been rescinded from the Department of Justice's rule book, if you will, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure there's a fancy name that the lawyers down below in the comments will let me know, but essentially the Department of Justice has left it on their books with the policy memo. Why not just take it off your books? You can do that tomorrow. Let's just do that. Similarly, the engaged in the business rule, again, the Department of Justice has put out a memo on this, and what this is, for folks who don't know, is the previous Department of Justice, along with the previous ATF, issued a memorandum that was super vague, but basically what it said is that anyone who sells a firearm with a bunch of different criteria that are also vague could be deemed to be engaged in the business of selling firearms, and therefore required to have a federal firearms licensee, or license rather, so an FFL, and if you sell a firearm without it, then you are in violation of the law, which is a serious felony, punishable by up to 10 years in prison for each count, so for each gun that you sell. And basically, as many of you guys know, they actually kicked in the door of the Arkansas airport director and shot him in the head because of this engaged in the business rule, and he is dead. And his wife had to watch him bleed out in the living room because the ATF made this rule up. And instead of just knocking on his door and or just going to his place of work and walking up like peaceful people, they decided to kick his door in at 5 a.m. and shoot him in the head instead because of that made-up rule. So an American was killed because of this. This is very serious. It has very serious consequences. And that rule could be simply eliminated Monday. So let's just eliminate it on Monday. So wrote down here LA County, but we already talked about that. But that honestly should go, which brings us into my next bullet point. For any of these state laws, like for instance, many of you guys know, unfortunately, I grew up in Massachusetts. I didn't have any say in that. I moved away as soon as I could. But places like Massachusetts, which are just horrible places to live because they're infected by communists, and they run the show, and there's really nothing you can do about it if you live there. Places like Massachusetts, as well as many other states, have these state laws that require you to get a license before you can exercise your right to the Second Amendment. So before you can buy a firearm, before you can buy ammunition, every state's a little bit different, but most states rather require those two things, some sort of license or a FOID card, as they call it in many states. So the Department of Justice should absolutely be attacking every single one of those state laws. There are a ton of them. It's not just Massachusetts and Illinois. There are a ton of states, like 20-something states that have similar laws to that. North Carolina used to have that up until a couple years ago, excuse me. So it is not just the states that you think of. There are a lot of states that have these stupid laws. They should all be attacked immediately by the Department of Justice. Again, they are depriving people, every single citizen that lives there within those states, of their civil rights under the colonial law. That is a criminal statute on federal law. They absolutely can enforce it if they want to. I would love to see them do that. And the last one that I'm sure everybody already knew I was going to bring up was going to be the National Firearms Act. So recently we had Congressman Clyde from the great state of Georgia on our channel talking about how Congress had removed the NFA taxes for most items, basically everything besides machine guns, in the big beautiful bill, and that of course goes into effect on January 1st. And Congressman Clyde, as well as I believe 20 or 30, I don't remember exact off the top of my head, other congressmen wrote a letter to the Department of Justice urging them to not enforce the NFA on those items going forward, because the NFA is primarily a tax. That is how it was passed into law. That is how every single court, when it has been challenged, has ruled that it was primarily a tax. So without the tax, then there is no NFA, right? That is the logical conclusion of that piece of legislation. However, the Department of Justice last week, as of when we're filming this, filed a brief in Texas. I believe it was in San Angelo, if I remember correctly. Basically, it was super aggressive. I made lots of videos on my social media, if you guys follow me there, about this. I didn't do it on YouTube and Rumble, though, but I have spoken about this. Many of you guys have seen this, where they went after the NFA in terms of supporting it in basically the most aggressive way in the history of the NFA, which is, a 90-plus-year law. They said that the Commerce Clause protects it. There's a lot of they made 3 different arguments against it that were all insane. And that was the Department of Justice that right now is also claiming to be super pro 2A and also just created this new office within the Civil Rights Division. So real easy win for them is to change course on that. And on January 1st, just remove the National Firearms Act, those items from the National Firearms Act, and let us enjoy those items without having to have a tax stamp, without having to have a firearms registry, without having to submit fingerprints, without having to submit a photo, without having to wait months in some cases, depending on where you live. And additionally, it will allow people who live in states that don't or haven't rather traditionally allowed NFA items, it will allow people in those states to just buy them normally like everyone else has in America for the last however many years. So that is an easy win. In fact, pretty much all of those are easy wins with the exception of the state laws and going after the state issues. All of those can be done easily within 30 days. It might take your fancy lawyers a little bit of time to write up whatever language and have it approved, but every single one of those can be done within 30 days outside of the state issues. I understand there's a legal process for those. All the federal ones can be almost immediately done. So if you want to show us that you are the most pro 2A Department of Justice in history, by all means, please do that. And if you guys are watching this and you work at the Department of Justice, which I know there are a lot of you because I get told about it by some of you, and then I get told about it by other friends of mine who are in Congress and tell me these things. If you are a member of the Department of Justice and you either want to come on here and talk about it, by all means, you guys have my number. I know you do. And because some of you guys text me, let me know if any of your bosses or anything like that want to come on. I would be glad to have them on, whether they want to tell us the good things that they're going to do to expand our civil rights here as it pertains to the Second Amendment, or if they want to make the case that they don't want to do that. I'd be happy to hear from them and have them on the channel. There is a standing invitation to any member of the Department of Justice who wants to do that. I extend that offer to all of you. However, those are only the things I could think up after this news was announced. If you guys have ideas of other things they could do, let us know down below in the comments. If you guys want to see the update on this, well, you have to subscribe because the update hasn't come out yet. So hit the subscribe button both on YouTube and Rumble. If you guys have done that and you're not seeing 2 to 4 videos a week here on the channel, then you are being censored by an algorithm. Easy way around that is to sign up for the email list at the website here on your screen. This will get you put on 2 different lists. One is the once monthly email that goes out, just has all the videos since the previous month's email. Very simple. It's just a way to let you guys actually see my content without an algorithm blocking it. What a concept. And then it'll also get you put on the Daily Deals email. That goes out every day as the name indicates. And it typically has 8 to 10 of the best deals that we find around the internet, whether it be optics, firearms, holsters, stuff from G-Code like we talked about, anything like that, ammunition. If it's in the email on a given day, it's the cheapest I know of for that item on that day. So that way it saves you guys some time because I've already done the looking for you and hopefully saves you some money as well. Lastly, we have an SMS service. You can text the word gear to the number here on your screen. That will get you signed up for the SMS, or you can just go to the website, mrgunsgear.com/SMS, and that will get you signed up as well. Either way, the SMS service goes out once a day at most, has 1 of 2 things, either a new video that just dropped, letting you guys, again, see my content, or it has a really smoking deal that very likely will sell out. And that's what's in the SMS service. It's not spammy, nothing like that, at most once a day. That's all I got for you. That's the news on the new Office of Gun Rights within the Department of Justice. Let me know what you guys think down below. And even if you don't do that, I still appreciate each and every one of you watching, and I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.